Hey, I'm Victor Margiotta. This is the Community Show. I have my friend Warren Smith on the show, and you talk about community. We grew up here in Verplanck, and we have so much to talk about. It's going to be a good show. So thanks for watching, and Warren, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. First off, just tell me a little bit about your experience in Verplanck.
Well, I've been here my whole life. I'm 58. I was born in Cold Spring, and after that, I spent the rest of the time here in Verplanck, other than going to college. My mom, our family's been here forever. Since the Italians came in around 1920, and in 1926, my grandmother showed up on George Washington's birthday. She landed in the harbor, and when the boat showed up, they wouldn't let her off. It was Washington's birthday, so. From then on, but she wasn't upset about it. From then on, it was like our patron saint of our family. So every George Washington's birthday, we have a carrot cake. We'd have a shot of anisette out of the George Washington flask that she had from 1932. And my mom was actually born on 9th Street because my grandmother wanted to buy living room furniture. She wanted to save money, so they didn't want to go to the hospital. She had other children at home, and she thought, we can have her here too. So she's actually a true pointer, West Ender. Yeah. And so I've been here ever since, basically. I was born in 1963. I moved from 8th Street to 9th Street in 1970, and now as a grown-up, I live across the street. I bought Mrs. Tripp's house, and Betty Tripp's, and I live in what used to be her house. So, yep.
I know. I love Verplanck. I've been all over the country. I haven't really been out of the country, maybe Jamaica or one of the other islands, but wherever you are, it's basically the same, but this is my home and I love it.
Me too. I can see why.
Yeah, and there's so many traditions here. We just experienced the tradition, 99 years, the feast, the Italian feast. The Lady of Mount Carmel Society runs this feast every year. And are you a member of the?
I've been a member for 40 years this year.
Wow.
And before that, they had me running, just helping do things. My grandfather, they were charter members, and my uncles. And when you got 17 or so, they were like, "Okay, come on, you're going to start carrying the statue. We're going to help you. You're going to haul beer up and put it from the basement into the ice." Mm-hmm. And then I really got involved. I became a member. They actually, in the old days, they would have white balls and black balls. They would drop them in. And if you got one black ball, you're out. That's it. They would, but then I got carrying a statue year after year, and it got to be George Pataki, our friend, was a member, and he was looking for a tall Italian to carry with him. So I was it. He would call me up, "Warren, you're going to be there. I'm going to be carrying tomorrow." So I got to know George doing that, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. And it's been a tradition. I mean, I think the 100th year, I can't wait.
It's amazing.
Making preparations already.
Yeah.
Trying to write the Cardinal. I don't know if he's watching the show, but I wrote him a letter to see if I can get him to come up and do a mass with us.
Yeah.
But
well, that's another tradition. They have mass at St. Patrick's.
Yes.
And then they have a little parade that comes out, and they have a little band of music. Were you guys able to do that this year?
We've done it. Yep. They even did it last year in the pandemic.
You did?
Because
okay.
we did. The mass is usually in Italian, which anymore I barely understand what they're saying in Italian, but I know the regular mass. But and then we carry the statue on our shoulders door to door, and we stop pretty much for anymore all of the old timers that aren't with us anymore. We pay respects to the home and to the families, and it's a great tradition. Lots of crying, which is great. Lots of old people crying, men and women, because it's very emotional.
It is emotional. But it's tradition, family, you grow up, this is something you do, you pass it on to the next generation. And, for example, religion is so important. Faith, believing that there is, something higher than us, something better, more important, that we're not it,
Right.
And
I can't agree more. Yeah, that's.
And you have a role to show people that, there is something more than just, what you're doing, and trying to help others, which is so important.
It's definitely, when you look and you watch the news every day, or in this we just got through, or in the middle, I guess they say, of this pandemic. And my job, I was making the world safe for commercial printing. I guess that's what you could say. But they had us going into the city since last June, not this past June, the June before. And people would be like, "Wow, you're getting on a train, you're riding the subways, you're into Manhattan, and oh my God, how are you surviving?" And basically, I did what I was supposed to do, did what I was told, wore my mask, tried to be safe as I could be, and I went to church and I said a prayer, and I said, you know what, if that's all I can do, that's all, and I was at peace. I lay my head on the bed, on the pillow at night, I fall right to sleep.
Throughout this whole thing, my faith has definitely helped me. There's a few things in the Bible that I always reflect on. When Jesus was tempted by the devil, and he said, you could have control of all these kingdoms of the world. And he said, I am not of this world, I am of another. And that is the kingdom of God, and that's heaven. So, realizing that this world isn't it, that, we have something to look forward to, gives us that strength to say, okay, I can get through anything as long as I have my faith and I believe. I'm striving to go to heaven. I don't know if I'm going to get there, but, that's still up to God whether I get into heaven or not. But, that's a strong belief that I have that gets me through, the difficult times.
And I think it's just one of those things that some people are like, what if there's no heaven? What's the worst that could happen? If you've been a good person, you help people your whole life, and okay, so I guess there's no heaven. What the heck? Everyone isn't spitting on your grave.
Right.
I always was told, one of my good friends said, there's two kinds of people that come to your wake. Those that are there because you're dead, and those that want to make sure you're dead. There's they want to, that, and I want to be on the first. I want to just be there. That's how I want to be. I was just reminded of one of my cousins gave a eulogy for one of my aunts one point. He says, heaven, you've got a big Italian family like ours. And we would always have these big gatherings. We'd have everybody laughing around the table, all the aunts and uncles. The kids, if you wanted to get out, you had to climb under the table through the chair legs to get out, and so you didn't disturb the adults. And everyone would sit there and talk and just laugh. And he said that's kind of what he imagines heaven's going to be. He says, Aunt Mary's table on 11th Street, and they're all waiting for you. One day, if you're good enough, you get to hang out at the table with them and live in eternity. Enjoy.
Well, that was the big thing with us too. Big family gatherings. You had to say hi to everybody. You couldn't just be there. You had to go, give them a kiss and a hug, and they pinch your cheek. And then at the end, you had to say goodbye to everybody.
That's right.
So even when I would hang out at the bar, I would walk in the bar and I'd walk around and say hi to everybody. And then when I left, I said goodbye to everybody. And, people were always a little,
Your mom and dad, though, used to sit right over there. Everyone that walked in the door, they said hello. They came out, and you still so. We'd finish our dinner, they say, here, have a cookie. I don't know what I want for dessert. No, this isn't dessert. Just have a cookie while you're deciding what you want to have for dessert. Have a cookie.
Yeah, and that's a tradition for me. It is. Even at church, I try to say hi to everybody. I had my niece in the car one time, and we're driving down the street, and everybody's waving at me. And we went to the Montrose Marina, where we grew up and had the pool.
Oh, yeah.
And we walked through, and everybody said hi, and I said hi to everybody. And she just looked at me, she says, what do you know, everybody? And I just, I didn't even realize that I was doing it. It's just something that's how I was raised,
It's polite.
You're being polite.
We're happy to see, I'm happy to see people. I'm happy to, and I know you guys are the same way.
And you can't like everybody, but you could love everybody. And that means that you would help them if they needed the help, even if you didn't like them.
You might think a minute, but
but
I know. In all seriousness, absolutely.
And I got to thank you for all that you do in the community. And I know you're involved in the Boy Scouts. Let's talk a little about that.
Well, I of course was a scout here in Verplanck for years, and we were Troop 7, first Pack 103. My dad was the chairman. And then up to Troop 17, which was, we had Mr. LeClaire, Mr. Tubbs running it, and Your brother actually got me involved in the Scouts from Cub Scouts. Gerard was a den chief, and he came to our pack and he told us what a lot of great fun it would be. And Troop 17 in those days, I think we only had one Eagle Scout in my era, which was Stephen Reichard. But it wasn't like the main objective was not getting badges. The main objective was to get out, camp, canoe, rock climb, you name it, we had adventures. That was what I remembered of it. And it was always more about getting outside and doing adventures. My dad, who was an IBMer forever, retired from IBM, we were up at climbing off a sheer cliff. And in those days, you top climbed. They tied a rope around a guy at the top, and they put a rope around their waist. They tied themselves to a tree, put a rope around their waist, tied one rope to you, and as you climbed down the hill freely with no protection, you would call falling if you fell, and they would lock the rope over after you fell about 20 feet. and then you'd climb back up. So we did that, and you're perpendicular off the rock climbing down. And my dad, we got all done with all the scouts, and they said, "Okay, Mr. Smith, your turn." He's like, "Me?" And they put him out there. I got a great Polaroid of him straight off the side of a face. And so I've got two older daughters. I didn't tell you much about my wife and family, but I've been married 34 years.
Congratulations.
Margie, thank
Awesome.
you. She's the one that deserves all the credit because it's a tough job being married to me, I'm sure. And then Janina, who is a teacher, a school teacher, and Rachel works in real estate, and my youngest son, Wayne. So my two older daughters, my wife was involved with Girl Scouts and went 18 years. She was running the community, and I would help her. We'd go camping. If she went camping, I'd help her with, those types of things because I had experience with it. And then when Wayne came along, she said, "That's it. You are going to be a den mother. You're in." So I took on that job, and I volunteered from the time he was a tiger till the time he got out of cubs. And so I went from being a tiger leader to a cub master and everything in between. And I had a lot of fun. And then when he went to be a scout, I thought, well, I probably want to step back and let him have his space. And before I knew it, I was an assistant scoutmaster, and I did that for 5 or 6 years as a scoutmaster. I was, I think, 7 or 8 altogether in that job. But what I loved about it was just trying to give the boys that like Huckleberry Finn life that we had. Because we'd be down the river starting fires, making a little campfire just for the fun of it on a Tuesday. I mean, growing up in the Point, that's how it was. You kind of you had to be in your seat by the time the 6 o'clock whistle went off at the firehouse for dinner. But otherwise, you're out doing something. Mom didn't know where we were, what we were doing. We were having fun in the woods. We were, having an adventure, climbing with Richie Cobe, climbing down cliffs with our own rope. After we did it in Scouts, we'll go climb our own, do our own cliff climbing. But so that's what I kind of tried to make for my Scouts in Troop 49. And the troop's very successful. They have, one of the things we try and do is, we try to teach them just what the responsibilities are to be a good citizen. And we teach them how to be servant leaders. When I say servant leaders, as a scoutmaster, it's a pretty easy job once you have those guys trained. You get that they have an age group is from 10 years old to 17. And my mission as a scoutmaster is really to just make sure they're not burning anything or hurting anybody. And they run the meetings, so they plan the meetings. The older guys mentor the younger guys, and gals now. There's girls in the Scouts, but they mentor the younger guys and make them into good, what we call servant leaders. So servant leaders are guys that aren't just standing around barking out orders. They quickly find out just barking out orders doesn't get things done. So they work with the boys at the best. And I think that's why the troop is so successful, is that when parents come to visit us, as an adult leader, I'm able to stand there and talk to them. And my Mr. Heindel, who's now in charge of the troop, can stand on the side, talk to them, and those guys are doing what they're supposed to do. They've planned it, prepared for it. I mean, when I first became Scoutmaster, I think I did 2 meetings where I was preparing and doing the meeting, and I was like, I can't do this. You guys are doing this. And that's really what scouting is all about, is they try it. That's, if you're following the program, the boys are running things. So for me, when you watch TV at night and you see all the horrors going on, I can think, okay, well, I've got 40 scouts, 40 guys that I know are going to be okay. And over the years, hundreds I've got that have been through the program. I think we have, in my tenure, I think there was 22 Eagle Scouts.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
But 22 guys that were just dedicated enough. It's a super hard job to do, a super hard rank to accomplish. But some of the scouts that I'm proudest of never became Eagle, but they were just, you could see them grow from being this little kid that doesn't know how to do anything, is crying when they go camping, to he's running things. And I mean, I've got a couple guys that I could name them, but I mean, I just get goosebumps when I think of where they started and where they ended. And I tell those guys, you've got Eagle in your heart. You're kind of, you don't have the badge on your shirt, but you've lived the Scout Oath and Law. And that's kind of what Mr. Tubbs and Mr. LeClaire inspired in me way back when. And your brother was these two, if you live the Oath and Law, then you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But
perfect examples of what you're talking about. My sister taught Sunday school when I was a little kid. And I thought, well, someday I'm going to have to teach Sunday school, and then wound up doing it for 20 years,
Your brother too, right?
Yeah, and, working at the restaurant, you come in, they tell you what to do, but then after a while, they don't have to, like you said, they don't have to tell them what to do, you know what to do.
Right.
And you lead by example. Right. You don't bark out orders, you show people how to work,
Right.
And that's so important.
Well, I would, for a while, anymore our companies are shrinking. But when we used to have, at one point, the company I worked for had 120 employees, and if I had to hire somebody, I'd say, okay, there's two things you need to do here. You need to do your best. That was the Cub Scout motto, and be prepared. If you do, I had them on the wall. I said, if you do those two things, you're probably going to be fine. You're not going to have to worry about getting fired, because I can guarantee I'm not going to, if I see you're trying and you're really trying to do a good job and things happen, things happen. But,
Well, the other lesson I learned from working here at the restaurant is, no matter how hard you work, at the end of the day, you're done, and the next day you got to come back like you didn't do anything.
That's right.
You got to start all over, and it's I got paid. It's not a thankless job.
Right.
I'm able to save money. I'm able to pay my mortgage. I'm able to pay my bills, and I'm doing well. So.
Right.
But the next day, you got to come in and work like like
That's
you
it.
do.
Well, I always try and tell people we're not curing cancer. We're like, we're printing materials that we want. Like for me as a graphic designer, I'm designing something that when they get it in the mail, I'm hoping they look at it for 3 or 4 minutes. That'd be great if 3 or 4 minutes, if they just look at it before they get rid of this. And that's, for a lot of the mailers and things, that's what we're trying to do, is get people's attention. And it's not brain surgery. It's just, it's fun though. I like doing it. I kind of call it, everything in life for me is creative problem solving. So you're kind of, you start off with a blank sheet of paper and you try and figure out what's the problem and how do I get from here to there with it. And Scouts, I got to say, Scouts for me, to go back there, is one of the greatest things I feel like I've done with my life. Because like I said, I've gotten to add on to my family probably 200 new nephews that I keep track of. I know what they're doing, how they're progressing, and it's fun to just see how they advance and become great citizens.
Yeah, and I try to do a lot of research. When I come on the show, I want to talk about the benefits of volunteering, the benefits of being educated. Education solves a lot of your problems. The more you know, the better equipped you are to deal with life,
Right.
and know things, know that the weather is the way it is, or why things are the way they are, and not be scared, because you understand what's going on around you,
Right.
And for me, going to church and believing in God and not being afraid is so huge, and
Yes.
Recently I've had a couple of friends that passed because of their drinking, and it's a shame. But I think there's a problem going on in this country, not only with alcohol, but with drugs, and we need to do something about it. And you being there for those kids is a huge step. And people getting involved in the community, and not just if you see something, say something. If there's somebody struggling, help them. Don't just say, "Oh, he'll be all right."
Right. Well, I try it myself. I know you live this. I kind of try and live this myself. As if I'm walking, I was just a couple of weeks ago, saw a guy just passed out on 38th Street, and people were just stepping over him to get into the post office on 38th Street in Manhattan. And I thought, this is somebody's brother or father or something. I don't know. He looks dead to me. We got to get somebody over here to look at him. And long story short, the ambulance finally showed up. He was alive. He was just totally drunk out of his mind, and they couldn't, because of laws, they couldn't do anything to help him other than just to make sure he was alive. But I thought, okay, well, at least, I wouldn't have been able to go home and go lay down and sleep and think, I wonder what happened to that guy today. That was like, he was just just looked like he was totally helpless. And you see that more and more recently anyway in the city. It's been that way for the last few months, which makes it tough to go. Makes it tough to go to, another reason to not want to go to work, I guess. But hopefully the boys that we're training
will step up and do something.
I know they will. I know the guys I've dealt with will, and at this point now I've gone from being a scoutmaster to I was like a unit commissioner. Now I'm district commissioner. So I'm going to take and try and help troops and guide troops in northern Westchester as opposed to just my own troop. I'm still involved with those guys, but I'm just trying to spread the success with that one troop to make everybody better.
Awesome.
It's lots of fun.
Yeah.
It's fun too. I developed like a pineapple bazooka for one of our events. I had the guys build it out of like pipes and a tire pump and launch a pineapple. You put the thing together and launch a pineapple. It's fun.
Raising kids is not easy, and they always say, "Oh, kids don't come with a manual." But if you go to the library, you can find 100 books on raising kids, and read a book on child psychology.
Right.
We were talking about rock fights that we used to have when we were kids.
Yes.
Now, is that normal?
I think
Apparently it is. I mean, kids are having rock fights all over the world.
Sure. We didn't throw sharp ones. We threw round ones at each other. They just clonk you in the head. You get a little lump. It's not the end of the world.
No.
But and our moms if they ever knew.
Right. But it's normal behavior. Talk a little bit about, your experience raising kids and not advice for people, but just an idea of how you did it.
I guess, we try to give them responsibility. And I brought my kids up the way my parents brought me up. I think in Marge, same thing. Her parents were Margie's parents were born in the 20s. My parents were born in 1940, 41. And the thing is, like yours, we were brought up to respect our elders and respect. I still call people Mr. Lent, Mr. Bingman, Mr.
Yeah, me too.
That's not that I don't know their first name. It's just
it's hard to say it. Out of respect. You're right.
I ran into Mr. Thomas, our old principal from Blue Mountain Middle School. 5 o'clock in the morning, he was swimming laps out at the pool, and my son was with me. He was in middle school at the time, and I said, Wayne, I was bringing him, 5 a.m. to go swim laps, and said, this is Mr. Thomas. He used to be my assistant principal. And he said, you're a pointer. He says, that's what I like about you kids from the point. You always respect. He says, some of these kids couldn't wait to call me Frank. He says, but you're Mr. Thomas. You're always going to be Mr. Thomas. And that's just a sign of respect. But that, I think in everything, that's one of the things we tried to instill in our children was that what you have to say might not be the most important thing in the world. We want to nurture you and encourage you, but we want you to respect the adults, and then everything else falls in from that. They just, my youngest son at one point, I know he's 12 years younger than his oldest sister, and at one point my mother-in-law came to live with us, so he had 4 women giving him advice at all times. This kid can clean toilets. He knows how to wash dishes, wash machines. He knows how that works. Everything. He's a very well-rounded young man. And he was giving my mother-in-law, he told him to do something, and he just was giving her lip. And as I walked in the door, I heard him like not telling her what he was going to do. And I said, listen, you are the boss of nobody in here. You are the youngest kid in this house. If the dog barks at you and does that, you do what the dog tells you, because the dog has got more sense than you're two. You're not in charge. And I don't know. I guess I don't know if that's good, bad parenting, but it seemed to work out well. He's an Eagle Scout and a very well-liked and respected young man, and super smart. My son is, and daughters. All of them turned out the same way. But my parents, I can tell you this: they never. I wouldn't say they never fought. I never saw them fight. And my brother Mike said one time, the F word in our house was fart. That was like, there was no cursing. And I don't know that they never fought, or had disagreements. But every once in a while, you'd see like a piece of Italian bread. My dad would ask for a piece of Italian bread and sail across the table at him. But it was that, and we'd all laugh. It was that kind of a life.
That's funny, because I don't ever remember my parents arguing.
No, I'm sure they must have disagreements. They had to. But my parents were together since they were 14, by the way.
Wow.
They've been there. I forget. They were married in 1962. So I don't know, that's a lot of. They're up there, but they're.
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Testament to them, and they've raised family. My brothers are the same way. Their kids are. All rounded.
Excellent. So we need good people to run for office and help with, I don't like to talk about politics, but, you can't help it. You're running for office.
I am, and it's way outside something I normally would think about doing. But I kind of got involved with just how they had a plan. Our town board was considering a plan, which I thought was preposterous, but considering a plan to put a giant, a factory and a seaport right at the end of 9th Street. And I thought, I got involved with Casey Morbido asked me, hey, there's a guy, a developer coming through, he wants to meet with me. Would you mind, I don't want to meet him alone up in the middle, up by the church on 11th Street, would you come up and meet with him with me? And I thought I was supposed to be protecting her from him. But I had to protect him from her, because she was very upset with him. You get people coming in and saying, we noticed that your taxes are high, and we want to try and save you from that. So we decided to put a factory in your town. And I
tactics.
I said, well, I don't think you guys are laying in bed up in Connecticut thinking, how am I going to help Warren pay his taxes? Maybe let's put a factory in his town. We'll spend $200 million, and it won't get us anything, but we'll make Warren's taxes low. That's not what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of got involved in activism in any way. I've always been a volunteer, I've always supported people, but I never really got involved directly. And because of that, I think it gave my voice when we were trying to fight that thing. When I was trying to fight that thing, it gave us a different approach. And my approach, though, for that, I would stand in front of the post office right over here on 6th Street, and I'd say, there's going to be a Zoom meeting with information about this factory development. Do me a favor, go on the meeting, and the people my neighbors would ask me, what are you trying to tell me? What is it that you think about it? And I'd say, well, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I want you to go there, ask questions, and then if you get the answers, if you like the answers you're getting, you call the town and tell them you want it. And if you don't like the answers, call them and tell them you don't want it. But education, I think, was the key to that. So now, with as a result of that, we beat that and stopped that project with $0. Other than Casey bought some signs, a few signs, but other than that, just people getting involved.
There you go. That's the bottom line.
And
that's the whole idea of the show. Get involved. Don't just complain about what's going on. Go out, vote for one thing. Join the clubs, join the community, and get involved. Warren, thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
Excellent show. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
All right. I'm Victor Margiotta. This is the Community Show. Thanks for watching, and hope everything's good with you. Thanks.